Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do part 3 of our build your QlikSense dashboard from scratch tutorial. And this is going to be a super interesting one because we're going to do some advanced stuff in front end. We're going to use a lot of variables. We're going to do things that most people I haven't seen a lot of these being used all the time, and I think that this can really help you go to the next level. And if you haven't seen the other two, I highly recommend you look at those two so that you get like a good basis on how things work in QlikSense and how you can do some of the easy things and create a simple dashboard. And this one is just building on top of it. So start with tutorials 1 and 2 and then come back to this if you're here for the first time and you're a beginner. But otherwise, yeah, just go ahead. We really hope you learn something. And so stick around and please like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. So, what are we going to learn here? First things first, we're going to see how we can have like a target quadrant with by using input measures here. So, as you see, as I move a small input measure on how much sales that I want as a cutoff, then I see which are my customers who fall under that target quadrant. And this can be super interesting. And I have two different parameters that I can play around here. And that one is sales and one is the number of orders. And as you see, this one moves and I can see who are my customers that fall into um, my target quadrant. This would be super cool. Next, we all our graphs are kind of a little more interactive, where if you see, if I select a product here, you see that the names are selected for that product. And if I select another region here, then the names are again, it shows you which product, which region has been selected. So you can use this using certain conditions, and then you can also do a variable analysis. For example, you can simulate your sales based on, let's say that you want to look at your capacity and if you can, what would happen if you had increased your sales by 10% or 20%? How would that look like over time? I think that's a super interesting way to look at your graphs as well. And then we're going to look a little bit into tables because that's something that we haven't done in the last two tutorials. So we're going to look at tables and we're going to see how we could use some symbols and color in the tables and some trend lines and um, symbols to look at which trends, how the trends are looking like. So this is what you will learn. Here we go. Let's start. This is what we did in the first tutorial, and this is what we did in the second tutorial. And let's continue and build on top of it. So what do we want to do first? First things first, I want to create a target quadrant here. And I think that is a super interesting way to look at your data. Let's first create our scatter plot, right? Because that's the basis for our quadrant. So we're going to create a scatter plot, and I'm going to use my customers as my dimension. And in the x-axis, I'm going to say sales, and I'm going to say number of orders. I have sales amount. So let's just move this one here. So you could just drag and drop, and it's gonna uh, you can flip between the two. So now I have sales on my x-axis and number of orders, as you can see here, right? And that's good. So basically what you're saying is higher and to the right. So top right corner would be your target quadrant. And those are the customers that you are looking for, who are your highest selling customers. So you have this. Now how do you create a cutoff? So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to create two variables here. So you're going to go here. There are two ways. One, you can create a variable in the script editor by writing let something is equal to, and that's a variable created. Or you could go here in the front end and you could create a variable. So you click here and then you say new variable. We give it a name. We say sales cut off, and we don't give any value right now, and you will realize why later on. So we give something called sales cut off, and let's close this, and then I go here to variable input. So here we have something called variable input, and I'm gonna drag and drop it here. So basically what I can do is if you have created a variable, then you can assign values to that variable using variable input. So now I have dragged variable input from here. Let's go into appearance. Let's go into variable, and this I want as my sales cutoff. So I'm gonna click on select and I'm gonna select the variable that I created. So I've created a variable called v sales cutoff, and I select that. Next, I'm going into, do I want it to be an input box or a slider? So I'm gonna make it a slider for now. I'm gonna click on update on drag because I want the variable to be updated as I drag the slider here. And the minimum value for this, yeah, we can leave it as 0 because this is for sales. And maximum value, well, right here I see 1.6. So let's make it like um, 2. 2 million, and maybe 100,000 as our steps. So you want to see for every 100,000. And let's give it a name as well. Right? So now we have an input for sales cutoff, but they're not linked together. So let's link the sales cutoff and our graph here. How do we link that? So over here, what I want is I'm going to go into add-ons here. So this is the data, and then if you go to add-ons, you can add reference lines. Since this is a scatter plot, you can add an x-axis reference line as well as a y-axis reference line. And now for x-axis, I'm going to say, since our sales is in the x-axis, I'm going to go to x-axis, add reference line, and I can give a condition when it should show. Or I could say, what is the reference line expression that I want? And the expression that I want is I want it to show the value of whatever my sales cutoff is. So I'm going to say is equal to dollar $v sales cutoff. So that's how you pull in a value from variable. You put a dollar before it. So you put a dollar sign, v sales cutoff, and yeah, remove. So basically what you wanted to show is the v sales cutoff. So dollar $v sales cutoff, and you give apply. So let's see if this is working now. So you see that you have a line now here which corresponds to. So as you change the value here, the variable that you created gets updated, and because the variable is linked to this graph, the graph keeps getting updated. I hope it makes sense. Now we need another one because we are trying to get to the quadrant. You also want to make a cutoff in your y-axis, right? So let's make a cutoff for the number of orders. So it's again the same steps. Create new variable, create the order cutoff. We don't give any value to it right now, and we say close. And then we do the same thing. We go to custom objects, we go to variable input, drag and drop, Now we have 2. Here we go to appearance, and we go to variable. We select the variable that we want to link it to. So we say order cutoff, slider, minimum value 0, maximum, let's give it 600, because for now over here you see that the total number of orders is only 400, so we could give it as, and let's make it 100, and then update slider on label and update on drag, and we give it a name, order cut off. Right, so now we have our order cutoff parameter, and it keeps updating the variable as you move the slider, but it's not linked to anything. So let's link it. So this, we're linking this variable into your graph. So we go back here, we go to add-ons. This is the y-axis, reference line, and we go to reference line expression, and we go here and we say it's $v order cutoff, and click apply. Great. So now you have 2. Right? So this is what you want. So let's say that somebody comes in and says, hey, give me a list of our, let's just increase this. So let's say somebody comes in and says, hey, give me the list of our customers who have more sales than 1 million and more orders than 500. So you could literally do this and get the customers, right? So now you know your target quadrant, but it still doesn't look, it's a bit hard for you to find out because they're all the same color. So let's change that. Now, first let me go here, and you have size, and I'm going to put the same sales amount as our size here, so that the size of the bubble changes, which makes it a little bit easier to see, I think. And let's go to presentation. We can leave this one as it is. Could make it all, so then you could see it, but it doesn't look that nice. So let's make it auto. And let's go to colors and legends. And you're going to switch this off because this is automatic. And then instead of single color, what you're going to say is, I want a color based on an expression. And then you have expression here. So you open it. So now basically what you want is you want to change the color of it based on the expression. So what is our expression? So here, if you look at it, we are trying to select only those products which are over our order cutoff and greater than our sales cutoff. So this is what we want. And we want these customers that fall into the quadrant that you're looking for in a different color, while the rest of them are in a different color because you're only looking at those, right? So let's put in, so the expression would be, give me all the customers that are greater than the order cutoff, whatever I'm changing here. I want it to be greater than them. And I want those customers also to have sales more than the sales cutoff that I've put in here. Then in that case, I want them to look at it. I want them to be seen in a different color. So let's put that expression here. So it's if, what we had is sales amount. So if sales amount is greater than our sales cutoff, right? So that is our dollar. So if the sales amount is greater than sales cutoff and number of orders is greater than our order cutoff, so that is $v order cutoff. Then in that case, this is the target quadrant that we want. Then in that case, I want them to be, let's put red. Otherwise, I want them to be blue. So we're saying the target quadrant, the top right, the customers that we're looking for based on the cutoffs that we're inputs that we're using our variables. Then if sales is greater than that cutoff and number of orders is greater than the order cutoff, then I want all of those customers to be shown in red. Otherwise, I show them in blue. And let's hope that it works. So let's click on apply, and voila, you see how now you have two customers which are over your inputs. So let's see what happens. So now I'm reducing. I want to see all customers over 700,000 and all customers that are over 200 orders. And now you see the target quadrant is here. These fall out, so they're all a different color. And now you have the target customers that you are looking for. And you can dig a little bit deeper and have a look at it just by zooming in and zooming out. So now I'm zoomed out, now I'm zooming in to see the customers. And then hovering over them, it shows you exactly the number of orders. So I think this is super cool. I was really thrilled when I learned how to do this, and it just takes your skills of building dashboards to another level. So I hope this one helps you. Let's do something really cool with variables again. And I love working with variables. It's it just opens up a whole new world. And what I like to do now is, so this is something that I've come across a lot of times. That is, I've tried to, sometimes what happens at work is like I need to see if we get a bunch of orders, then we need to see if we have the capacity to make those orders, right? So we know what our capacity is, how many people are working, how many hours. So we know the capacity. But what if our forecast goes above it? Can we actually meet the order? So it's super nice to be able to simulate these kind of things. And you can actually do it in QlikSense using variables. So let me show you how it's done. First, let's create bar graph, or I think a line chart is better. So let's create a line chart here, and let's put in year month as our input, as well as sales. Okay, so now we have our sales and we have our, now what I want to do is so this is our actual sales, but let's say that you wanted to see what would your sales be if it was 10% higher. Now this is just an excuse, just an example. I'm using sales, but you should probably use it in some. You can use it whatever applies to your data set. But I'm using sales just to see how would it look like if I had sales which was higher or lower. What would happen if my sales was 10% lower? What would happen if my sales was 10% higher, 20% higher? How much money would we make? So I really like this kind of simulation thing. So let's see how we can do that. So we have we have a graph here. Now what we need to do first is, this procedure is again similar. So we go to variables here, and we create a new variable, and the variable here is called, well, it's not called anything, but you can call it whatever you want. So we could say v, let's say a factor. Yeah. So I have a variable called v factor. Again, I don't define anything here. You could give it a number, but since you're putting a variable input later, it keeps updating, right? So there's no point in really doing that. Create, and your factor is created, and then we close this. Next, what you do is we go back, we put in variable input, and we bring it here. Let's cut this and put it on top. Actually, let's move this whole thing here. And let's put all right. So now we go to appearance, we go to variable, and we select the variable that we want, that is v factor. And we want the input to be buttons. Display, yeah, we can display it as a row. And you're going to give it a fixed value. And here we start putting in the values. So for the first one, I want we want to scale from minus 20% to plus 20%, let's say. So let's start with minus 20% would be 0.2, right? So, and then let's put a label as 20%. So you get this value would be minus 0.2. So if you have 1 as 100%, then minus 0.2 would be less 20%, so 20% lesser. So that would be, if you're taking it out from 1, it would be 0.8. So 80% of your value. So if you multiply 0.8 into any sales, then you would know that you're getting a value which is 20% lesser than your actual sales. So that's what you want. So here it's 20%. Next, let's go to add alternative, and we're going to give it 0.1 because that's 10%. So that is minus 10%. We also want a middle value, which would be 0. And that means that there is no simulation here. And next, you would go to 0.1, which is 10%. And 0.2, that is 20% higher. So that is for you to know which, if your sales or whatever you're calculating is 20% higher, how would the values look like? So now we have from minus, so you have from minus 20 to 20%. Let's just give it a name as well. Let's go to general, and we're going to name this as sales simulator. Sounds pretty cool. Yeah. So 0%, 10%, 20%, but this doesn't move, right? Of course it doesn't, because you haven't connected the variable. So now the variable is connected here. So as you change this, your variable is being updated there as minus 0.1, minus 0.2, 0.1, 0.2, but it's not connected to your graph. So let's do that now. Let's connect it to the graph. So we go here and we go to data, and this is a new measure. So we say add new measure, and we know that our measure is the sum of sales. So we say sum of sales amount. And what you want to do is, as the variable is updated, you want to multiply the sale by the factor, right? So let's say that you're multiplying it once. That means it's the same. So you're not going to get a difference. So multiplying it by 1 will give you the same exact sales. But what you want to do is see multiplied by the simulated. So let's say that you want to see a simulated sales of greater than, well, if you select 20%, then you want to see simulated sales of 20%. So that would be 1 plus whatever your value is in your variable. So 1 plus $v factor. That was our, so what's exactly happening here? So now you have your sum of sales. You're multiplying that by 1 because you're taking that as 100% or yeah, as the original value, and then you're adding your factor. So if you have selected I want to see 10% higher sales, then the value here would be 0.1. So 1 plus 0.1 would be 1.1. So you would see 110% of your um, you would see a 10% increase in your sales. And in case you have seen point, well, if you have selected minus 20, then in that case, this would be minus 0.2. So that would be 1 minus 0.2. So 80%, you're multiplying your sales by 80% to see what is your sales value there. So let's click on apply, and now we should have another line here. Yeah, and let's go write this as simulated sales, just to make it clear, right? So now we see, let's make this an area chart. So you could go here, go to appearance, go to presentation and area. Yeah, so now we have two different. So now we see that this was your actual sales, but by changing to 10%, you have seen what would your sales look like if it was 10% higher. Now let's make it 20%. And as you can see, this has gone, your simulated sales is higher. So now you see what is your simulated sales if your sales was actually 20% higher. But what would happen if your sales would go lower? So let's say it's 20% lower now. And now you see that your simulated sales is below your actual sales and it's less than 20%. So this is a super cool way of making simulations, and I hope you understood how to do it. Let's just move this. I don't like the way that it stands in the way here. What if I move it here and I move this one? All right, let's give this a name. This one should be target quadrant. Now you can give the name by just clicking here, or you could go into general and give a title here. It's the same thing. But for this one, let's do something special. So first, let's go to master items, and let's go to, let's go to charts, and let's put two more filter panes here. So let's click on filter plane, drag, drop, and here I'm gonna add two. So I want to be able to select product, and I want to be able to select country. Yeah, so now you have product and you have country. And so when I make a selection here, one particular product is selected. Now when we select a product here, the products are selected and we are seeing sales for that particular product, but we don't know which product is selected. Of course, we can go here and see which product, but I want to be able to see it in my graph itself. So I'm going to change the name of the label to be quite dynamic. So instead of having like a fixed name, I want the name to change based on the selections that I make. And how do we do that? Well, you can click on this. Let's go to general. And what we're going to do here is we're going to change the title. We're going to go into it and we're going to give this an expression. So the expression would be product inside commas. And what we're going to do is we're going to say and. So I want the name to be product and whatever product I've selected. So here we have a function called get field selections. So I'm going to say product and get field selections, and the field that I want the selections to come from is product. So what I'm saying is I want the title to be product and get field selection products. So that means whatever the name of the products are inside this particular field, then I'm going to bring in all those selections. So that's what get field selections does. So now if I look at it, it says product I know shoes because that's what I've selected here. And now if I select 2 or 3, it comes product A running shoes, I know shoes, Atlas. Yeah, you get the picture. Otherwise, it just says product because nothing is selected, right? You could make this a little bit better. For example, one thing I don't like here is, let's say product and I want it to have a, yeah. So now it looks a little bit better. So now I make a selection in the product. Right? So now you see that product, all the ones that you're selected. And I think this looks much better. But one thing we still can't see here is a product, and now there's nothing because I haven't selected anything. That doesn't look nice. I wanted to show all. So if I haven't selected a product, then I want it to show all. So how do we do that? We would need to nest this inside an if condition. So what we have is we have a function called get selected count. So basically what get selected count does is it counts the number of selections that you've made in a particular field. So get field selections brings in the names of those selections that you have made. So in this case, I'm saying get field selections from product. So if I select 5 products, it would bring in the names of those 5 products. But if I use get selected count, then it would bring in the number of selections that I've made in that particular field. So in this case, if I've selected 5 products, it would bring in 5, and get field selections would bring in the name of those 5. So get selected count, and I would make it product. So get selected count product, and if none of it is selected, that means that get selected count would be 0, right? So if get selected count is greater than 0, that means that something is selected. Then I want it to print product and get the names of those that have been selected. Otherwise, I want it to say product or products all, right? So if I haven't made any selections in the product field, then get selected count would be 0, in which case it would bring products all. But the moment I make a selection, then the get selected count from product would be greater than 0. Then I would print out product and it would bring in the selections that I've made. Click on OK and let's see if it works. So now you have, excuse me, now you have products all because I haven't made any selections. But the moment I make a selection, it changes to product. Yeah. So this is quite nice, I think. Um, and yeah, let's leave it at this. Let's create a table with different different symbols. And how are we going to do that? Well, first we're going to go to edit sheet, and we're going to go to charts, and we're going to go to a table here. All right, and let's put in some columns. So here what I want is my employees. So we have employee ID, and I think we have the names of employees. So we can go to first name. Next, what I want to do is I want sales for previous year and sales for the current year. And I've created those two master measures here. So if I go to measures, I've created something called sales previous year and um, sales current year. So let's create those from scratch so we know how to do this. So let's say that this year sales. So how do we do that? So what we want to do is we want to create a set expression where we are selecting the maximum year. And that would be, we're going to do sum of, and this is a general formula for set expression. We're not going to go deep into it, just copy this one. We're going to go in another video really deep into set expressions. So it's open flowery brackets, um, and then we're saying our field year, we want it to be equal to, um, we're making selections here again. So again, flowery brackets, and we're going to say is equal to dollar is equal to max of year. So we're saying year is equal to get a calculation of all the years and find the maximum year out of that. And close that bracket. And so the set expression is done, and that would be sales amount. And you close the bracket here. So what we're saying is sum of for year, you're selecting the maximum year, and that would be the sales for this particular year because you're in the maximum year. So click on apply, this year sales. So we're going to go back here, we're going to go to measure, and we're going to put in this year's sales that we just created. But I think our dimensions are not, I think employees don't correspond to. So let's change our dimension to countries. So now we have country and this year's sales. And now what we also want is to see previous year's sales. So how would we do that? Um, if we go into this year's sales, right click, duplicate what we just created. We just want to select. So now we have selected the current year, right? So that is the max year. But if you want 1 year before that, you want the max year minus 1. So let's use the same measure and instead do max year minus 1. And as you can see here, from 2018 it went to 2017. So again, we are saying sum all the sales amount for, in the set expression, year is max year minus 1. And we click OK, and we say this is last year sales, and we say save. Let's put that here, last year sales, and then we want last year sales to be before, so you can always just move it and the column placement would change, right? So now you have last year sales. Now we want to do something really interesting here. So what I want is to create different symbols based on if the trends are going up, that is if the sales of this year has actually been greater than last year, then I want it to show in a different symbol here. So how could we do that? Now we have a list of symbols, and now we have I'm going to link this below. So we have this list of characters that we can actually use and call in into our QLIK SENSE app. So here you have geometric shapes, you have characters, you have different kinds of shapes here that you can all that you can use. But maybe I'm going to use this here. So 9650 for upward trend and 9660 for downward trend. So this is a list of all the symbols that you can actually use, and it's quite, yeah, it makes your graphs better, I think. So how do we add that? So basically here, what I want is if my, wait, last year I always, yeah, I want country, last year sales, this year sales. And if this year sales is greater than last year sales, then I want the trend to be going up. That is, I want it to show 9650, that is the upward triangle. Otherwise, I wanted to show the downward triangle. So let's go to here, let's go to measure, and let's go in. And here again, we're going to use an if statement to show what is the different trend. So let's say that your if this year's sales is greater than your field last year's sales, then the way you bring in the symbol is by using CHR, that is for character. Then I want it to be 9650. Otherwise, I want it to show character, is it 9660? 9660 is downward, yeah. So character, open bracket, 9660. So what we're saying is if this year's sales is greater than last year's sales, then I want it to show an upward arrow, otherwise a downward arrow. And this is basically it. And we should get a trend here. Yeah, you see, some are down, some are up. And let's just rename this, go into this, go to label and say trend. Right? So now we see in an easy way which are the countries. So you could filter it just by clicking on this. So now you see it's filtered by all, these are all the countries that are downward and these are all the countries that are upward. Still a little bit hard to see, so we could change that. Let's go into, let's write the same one but give it a color code here. So let's go into trend and let's give it a background color information, and we are writing the same thing again. Let's say that if this year's sales is greater than last year's sales, then I want it green, otherwise I want it red. And we click on apply, and let's just copy all of the background information, and we give it, we go to country, that is this particular column, and we paste it here. So now you can easily see which ones. And one thing that I don't like is this is on the left. I want it to be in the center. So we go into trend, go to text alignment auto, you switch this off, and then you can click on center and this becomes center. And now if I click on this, it's going to, yeah. So in Venezuela, Denmark, Spain, Argentina, we see that the trend of sales is going higher, while in some countries the trends are going lower. And this is another super interesting and nice way to see, I think. So we have done a lot of things here. Um, Now, I don't want to drag this further. I think that this is a good place for us to stop. It's quite a lot to take in, I understand. And I hope that with some practice, you guys get it. One thing that I would like to go into is if I go into the text editor or the load script editor, I could show you one little thing that I created. And one of the things that I'm doing here is I'm multiplying unit price into quantity as sales amount, and I'm using a field called year. I'm using the function year into the order date as year. So if you guys are wondering about these two things, when you download and load the app yourself, um, just go into the script editor and make these two changes. That is year. Yeah, so these are the two changes that I've done. But Everything else is kind of shown in the other video, so I highly recommend you check that out. And I would like to stop over here for this one. I hope that it helps you. I hope that this takes your skills to another level. So please like, really helps out a lot. I would really appreciate it if you clicked on the like, and please subscribe and stay tuned for more. Cheers. Have a great day, everybody.